The Awakening of the Crimson Sentinel. The command deck of the Horizon Seeker hummed with tension as Commander Elena Reeves studied the holographic projection hovering before her. The stellar map cast a pale blue glow across her weathered features, illuminating the determination etched into every line of her face. 20 years of space exploration had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, every fiber of her being told her they were close. "Are you certain about these coordinates, Kai?" Elena asked, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had earned her the loyalty of her crew. Lieutenant Kai Chen nodded, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. "The ancient Terran archives don't lie, Commander. The translations match perfectly with the Arcturus tablets. Whatever the precursors left behind, it's waiting for us on Morrigan's moon." Elena's gaze shifted to the crimson satellite captured in their long-range scanners. Morrigan, a gas giant on the edge of charted space, loomed large in their viewport, its blood-red moon orbiting with ominous grace. According to legend, it housed something the ancient alien race known as the Precursors had hidden away millennia ago. A weapon, a warship, perhaps humanity's last hope against the expanding Cenari Dominion. "Commander," called Sergeant Maya Ortiz from her security station, "we're detecting anomalous energy signatures from the moon's surface, and something else. Cenari warp signatures approaching from Sector 7. Elena's jaw tightened. Of course, the Cenari would be here. The four-armed, crystalline beings had been tracking human expeditions for years, always appearing whenever humanity stood on the verge of a breakthrough. Their technological superiority had pushed Earth's colonies to the brink of subjugation. This discovery could change everything. "Prepare for lunar descent," Elena ordered. "We need to reach the site before the Cenari. Lieutenant Tobin, ready the ground team." The Horizon Seeker sliced through Morrigan's upper atmosphere, ionized particles dancing across its shields as they descended toward the crimson moon. Through the viewport, Elena watched as vast crimson plains gave way to jutting, obsidian mountain ranges. The surface appeared lifeless, yet sensors detected complex energy matrices flowing beneath the scarred terrain. "Strange," muttered Dr. Elias Reed, the expedition's xenorchaeologist. "These readings suggest the entire moon could be artificial, or at least heavily modified by the precursors." The ship touched down in a valley flanked by towering monoliths covered in angular, luminescent glyphs. As the boarding ramp descended, Elena led her team onto the surface. The gravity was lighter than Earth standard, giving each step a floating quality that the team's exosuits compensated for automatically. "Fan out," Elena commanded. "Stay in communication range and watch for defensive systems. Precursor sites are notoriously well protected." The air was thin but breathable, tinted with metallic particles that gave the sky its perpetual blood-red hue. Elena's team advanced cautiously toward a massive structure half buried in the mountainside, a colossal archway adorned with complex engravings that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. "It's responding to our presence," whispered Dr. Reed, his scanner tracking energy fluctuations in the arch. "The patterns are changing, reconfiguring. I think it's scanning us." A low vibration began beneath their feet, rising in intensity until the ground itself seemed to tremble. The glyphs on the arch flared with brilliant crimson light, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape. "Get back to the ship," Elena shouted, but her warning came too late. The arch split open, revealing a cavernous tunnel that plunged deep into the moon's core. A powerful gravitational pull seized Elena and her team, dragging them inexorably forward despite their desperate attempts to resist. The last thing Elena saw before darkness engulfed her was the silhouette of a Cenari warship breaking through the clouds above. Elena awoke to find herself in a vast chamber bathed in crimson light. Her team lay scattered around her, gradually regaining consciousness. The walls pulsed with energy, complex circuitry visible beneath translucent panels that stretched as far as the eye could see. "Everyone okay?" she called, helping Dr. Reed to his feet. "Where are we?" Lieutenant Tobin asked, weapon drawn as he scanned their surroundings. "Inside. Alina replied simply, "Inside whatever the precursors left behind." As her team regrouped, Alina noticed a central platform rising from the chamber floor. Approaching cautiously, she saw it contained a console unlike any precursor technology they had previously encountered. This was newer, more refined, yet unmistakably created by the same ancient hands. "It's a control system," Dr. Reed breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "For the entire facility. Can you interface with it?" Alina asked. Reed nodded hesitantly. "Our translation algorithms should work, but—" A thunderous explosion rocked the chamber, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Alina's communication device crackled to life with the panicked voice of the Horizon Seeker's pilot. "Commander, the Exenari have landed in force, at least 3 warships. They're deploying ground troops and heavy excavation equipment." Alina exchanged grim looks with her team. "They know what's here. We need to work fast." She turned to Reed. "Access that console. Find out what this place is." As Reed worked, the chamber around them began to change. Dormant systems hummed to life, and the pulsing light grew stronger. Holographic displays materialized throughout the space, showing schematics of what appeared to be a massive vessel, one that dwarfed even the largest human or Exenari ships. "This isn't just a facility," Reed said, his voice filled with awe. "It's a docking station." For that, he pointed to the hologram of a colossal warship, its design elegant yet unmistakably built for destruction. The Crimson Sentinel, a precursor dreadnought. Another explosion, closer this time, sent tremors through the structure. The sounds of energy weapons and combat echoed from distant corridors. "The Exenari are inside," Sergeant Ortiz reported, readying her rifle. "How do we access the ship?" Alina demanded. Reed's fingers flew across the alien interface. I think we're already inside a part of it. This control center connects directly to the main vessel. If I can just..." The floor beneath them lurched suddenly, and the entire chamber began to separate from the surrounding structure. Through newly formed viewports, Alina watched in astonishment as they ascended through layers of the moon's crust. "The dreadnought is awakening," Reed whispered. "After 50,000 years of dormancy, the Crimson Sentinel lives again." As the massive warship broke free from its lunar tomb, Alina caught sight of the Exenari forces scattered across the surface, their weapons trained on the ascending colossus. Streams of energy fire bounced harmlessly off the dreadnought's ancient shields. "They can't stop it," Lieutenant Tobin said, a rare smile crossing his features. "Nothing they have can penetrate precursor defenses." Alina's triumph was short-lived. A proximity alarm blared, and the ship's systems highlighted multiple Exenari boarding craft attaching themselves to the dreadnought's outer hull. "They're cutting their way in," Ortiz warned. Reed looked up from the console, his face pale. "Commander, there's something else. The ship's AI is activating. It's waiting for a new commander. Can it distinguish between us and the Exenari?" Alina asked. "I don't know. But whoever gains control of this vessel first will have the power to reshape the balance of the galaxy." Alina stared at the holographic representation of the massive dreadnought, watching as sections illuminated with restored power. The Crimson Sentinel had awoken after millennia of slumber, and its allegiance hung in the balance. "Then we'll just have to make sure it's us," she said, drawing her sidearm. "Prepare for boarders. We need to hold this control center at all costs." As if responding to her words, the ship's internal defense systems suddenly activated. Panels slid open in the walls, revealing weapon emplacements and security barriers. The AI was coming online, preparing to defend itself, but whether it would recognize humanity as allies or threats remained to be seen. A final, massive tremor shook the vessel as it fully freed itself from the moon's grasp. Through the viewports, Alina watched as Morrigan's blood-red satellite began to crumble, revealing the truth. The moon had been nothing more than an artificial shell, constructed to conceal the dormant warship within. The Crimson Sentinel rose majestically into space, its ancient engines glowing with power that defied modern understanding. Aboard the bridge, Elena and her team braced themselves for the coming conflict, not just with the Exenari, but potentially with the ship itself. The battle for the precursor dreadnought had begun. The Ascension Protocol. Cenari boarding vessels latched onto the Crimson Sentinel like parasites, their cutting beams slowly burning through the ancient hull. Elena watched the security feeds with growing concern as the crystalline warriors poured through the breaches, their forearms wielding advanced energy weapons. "We need to seal off this section," she ordered. "Lieutenant Tobin, take Ortiz and secure the main corridor. Dr. Reed, keep working on the interface. We need to get this ship under our control." The Crimson Sentinel shuddered as its dormant weapon systems came online, responding to the Exenari intrusion. Throughout the massive vessel, automated defenses engaged the boarders, but the alien warriors fought with the desperation of those who knew what was at stake. Elena accessed the tactical display, grimacing at what she saw. 3 Cenari dreadnoughts had taken position around the awakened warship, their weapons charged but holding fire, afraid of damaging the prize they sought to claim. "Commander," Reed called from the console, his voice tight with excitement. "I've accessed some of the ship's historical records. The Crimson Sentinel wasn't just a warship. It was the flagship of the precursor defense fleet during their war with something they called the Void." "The Void?" Elena asked, joining him at the console. Reed's eyes reflected the scrolling alien text, some kind of extra-dimensional threat that nearly wiped out the precursors. "This ship contains weapons specifically designed to combat them. Technology far beyond anything we've ever encountered." A sudden explosion rocked the control center. Through the smoke, Elena saw Exenari warriors pouring through a newly created breach, their crystalline bodies reflecting the crimson emergency lighting. "Contact," Tobin shouted, opening fire with his pulse rifle. The rest of Elena's team took cover, returning fire as energy bolts sizzled through the air. Elena ducked behind the central console, drawing her sidearm. "Reed, get that interface working." The xenorchaeologist worked frantically, his fingers dancing across the alien controls. "There's some kind of authentication protocol. The ship wants to verify we're worthy to command it." The firefight intensified as more Xenari poured through the breach. Their leader, taller than the others with intricate crystal formations covering his armor, stepped forward. Unlike his soldiers, he carried no weapons, instead raising all 4 of his arms in a gesture Elena recognized from diplomatic encounters. "Humans," the Exenari commander's voice resonated through the chamber, translated by their comm systems. "This vessel is beyond your comprehension. Surrender now, and the Dominion will permit you to leave with your lives." Elena emerged from cover, her weapon trained on the alien leader. "This ship doesn't belong to the Exenari any more than it belongs to us. The precursors left it here for a reason." The Exenari commander's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a smile. "Yes, as a weapon, one the Dominion intends to claim." "Why?" Elena demanded. "Your technology already surpasses ours. Why pursue this vessel with such determination?" "Because of what comes next," the commander replied, his voice dropping. "The void stirs again, human. The ancient enemy that drove the precursors to extinction has begun to awaken. The Dominion has foreseen this and prepared, while your kind remains ignorant of the greater threats beyond your limited understanding." Before Elena could respond, the ship lurched violently. The lighting throughout the control center shifted from crimson to a deep, pulsing blue. Holographic displays multiplied, filling the air with complex diagrams and ancient text. "Elena," Reed shouted. "The AI, it's fully activating." A resonant voice filled the chamber, speaking in a language that sounded like liquid crystal. To Elena's surprise, she understood every word, though she knew she shouldn't. "Ascension Protocol initiated. Seeking worthy successor to the mantle of protection." Both humans and Cenari froze, weapons still raised but attention captured by the disembodied voice. "The ship is scanning us," Reed whispered. comparing us against some kind of predetermined criteria. The Exenary commander stepped forward. Precursor vessel, the Exenary Dominion has preserved your creator's knowledge for millennia. We have prepared for the return of the void. We stand ready to wield your power against the coming darkness. The AA seemed to consider this, the blue light pulsing more rapidly. Then its attention shifted, and Elena felt an invisible pressure settle on her mind. Human designate, Elena Reeves. The AI addressed her directly. Your species is young, untested, yet you possess qualities the precursors valued. Adaptability, determination, compassion tempered with necessary strength. The pressure in Elena's mind intensified, and suddenly she was bombarded with images. The final days of the precursor civilization, their desperate battle against formless entities that consumed stars and corrupted reality itself. She saw the Crimson Sentinel leading a last stand, its weapons tearing holes in space-time to drive the void back. The void comes in cycles, the AI continued. The precursors knew they would not survive to face it again. They created me, the Sentinel, to find worthy inheritors of their legacy. The Exenary commander hissed in frustration. Our civilization has existed for 10,000 years. We have the experience and discipline to wield this power. Yet you seek domination rather than protection, the AI responded. Your kind would use my powers to subjugate before the void even arrives. Elena stepped forward, lowering her weapon. And what would you have us do? Humanity is still finding its place among the stars. We're not ready for a war against something that destroyed the precursors. No species ever is, the AI replied. But the precursors saw potential in primitive humanity. They left markers in your genetic code, guideposts in your development. They intended for you to find me when the time was right. The control center shimmered, and a new figure materialized, a holographic representation of a precursor, tall and elegant with features that seemed both familiar and alien. It turned to Elena, extending a six-fingered hand. The choice is yours, Elena Reeves. Accept the mantle of protection, and the Crimson Sentinel will bond with you and your crew. Refuse, and I will self-destruct rather than fall into unworthy hands. The Exenary commander roared in outrage. Impossible. We have sacrificed too much to be denied. He lunged forward, his crystalline form shifting to reveal hidden weapons embedded in his arms. Time seemed to slow as Elena made her decision. The Exenary's aggression only confirmed the AI's judgment. Humanity might be young and untested, but perhaps that was what the coming war required. A species unburdened by rigid tradition, capable of innovation and adaptation. I accept, Elena declared. Light exploded from the holographic precursor, enveloping Elena and her team. The Exenary warriors were thrown back by an invisible force, pinned against the walls as the ship's internal systems recognized them as hostiles. Elena gasped as knowledge flooded her consciousness. Star charts of regions beyond explored space, weapon systems that defied conventional physics, and most importantly, the nature of the enemy they would eventually face. Neural bonding complete, the AI announced. Commander Elena Reeves recognized as Sentinel inheritor. The ship responded instantly to Elena's thoughts. Defense systems activated throughout the vessel, driving back the Exenary borders. Outside, the three enemy dreadnoughts found themselves targeted by weapons that made their most advanced shields seem primitive by comparison. You don't have to do this, Elena addressed the Exenary commander, who remained restrained by the ship's systems. The void is a threat to all life. We could face it together. The commander's crystalline features shifted through patterns of rage, calculation, and finally, reluctant acceptance. The Dominion will not forget this, human. But perhaps there is wisdom in the precursor's choice. Our rigidity has become both strength and weakness. Then help us, Elena offered. Your knowledge combined with our adaptability might be what saves us all when the void returns. The Exenary commander considered this for a long moment before inclining his head in a gesture of agreement. A temporary alliance, then. until the greater threat is addressed. As the remaining Xenari forces withdrew, Alina turned her attention to the vast universe displayed on the holographic projections. Somewhere out there, the ancient enemy stirred. Humanity had never faced such a threat before, but then, humanity had never commanded a precursor dreadnought before either. The Crimson Sentinel accelerated away from Morrigan, its ancient engines breaking physical laws that human science had considered immutable. As stars streaked past the viewports, Alina felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders, not just for humanity, but for all life in the galaxy. The ship's AI, now a constant presence in her mind, seemed to sense her thoughts. The precursors believed that only species who rise from adversity could hope to stand against the void. It told her, "Your kind has overcome much to reach the stars. Now you must overcome more." Alina nodded, watching as her crew adapted to their new roles aboard the ancient vessel. Humans and their technology, interfacing with systems built by a civilization that had vanished before mankind had even discovered fire. "We will," she promised, both to the AI and to herself. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As the Crimson Sentinel vanished into the depths of uncharted space, the legend of its awakening spread throughout human colonies and Xenari territories alike. The balance of power had shifted, and with it, the fate of the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the Xenari Dominion approached human worlds not as conquerors, but as cautious allies against a threat greater than their ancient rivalries. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the void sensed the reactivation of its old enemy. Ancient consciousnesses stirred from their long slumber, turning their attention toward the tiny speck of a vessel carrying the last hope of the precursors and the first hope of humanity. The war for existence itself had only just begun.